Hey, it's David Pingree. Thanks for tuning in to another Dialed In segment. We got the 2019 KTM 250 SXF. Great motorcycle. We spent a long day out here at Milestone, really going through this thing. We've already done an introduction on it out at Cheney Ranch, so I've been a couple different places and we've kind of dialed in our settings and we want to pass that along to you. Start with the engine on this thing. One thing you really got to remember about this bike is it's a rever. You can't try to short shift this thing or work the middle or meat of the power, which is kind of how I ride. So if I was going to try to remap this thing or do some modifications, I would try to bring a little more front side, even if I had to give up some top. But if you're running this thing stock or you're just trying to figure out how to make this thing go fast, you got to rev it. You got to rev this thing. The power pulls so far that if you try to short shift or kind of just work the middle of the power like a 450, you're going to struggle. So just keep that in mind. Having said that, I definitely like the aggressive map on here. You've got two maps, traction control on either one of them. Kind of with these KTM traction controls, it's an amazing device. I really like it on the bigger bikes. As you get down to the 250, it's just not as noticeable because you're not having that really rapid wheel spin when you hit a slick spot or hit some mud or dry, hard slick. So you just don't notice it as much. Still a good feature, and if you're on muddy courses that are like hard and shiny slick or really dry and slick, run it. I mean, it's a very subtle adjustment to the way the power is delivered, but the minute you go to, the thing does want to light up, it will help. It does eliminate some mistakes, so play with that. Having said that, I like the aggressive map all around on this thing. The standard map, maybe if you're just learning to ride or something, you might like that. I think everyone's going to want the aggressive map. We also made a change to when you order a new set of grips from KTM's hard parts catalog, they will give you an option of having different cams for the throttle too. And the standard one is a very long throw, and I found myself not being able to, in order to hold it wide open all the way to the stop, I'm like fully chicken wing down like this, and found myself a lot of times just not all the way wide open. So we went to this shorter throw. When you get the grip kit, it comes with a 2-stroke cam, a standard cam, and then a short throw cam. Put the short throw cam on here. It's just better all the way around. I don't know what to tell you. Allows you to move the throttle less to get this, to get the motor to move, and just a lot easier to ride, frankly. So I really like that. The gearing, I like the standard gearing. I don't think anyone who's intermediate or expert level, you're not going to have a problem with this standard gearing. It's right where you want it to be. Some guys that this was a KTM tip, if people feel like it's a little too tall for them, they recommended going to a 1351. So instead of a 14 counter, drop it to a 13, and that just makes it a little easier to ride. They found that beginning and novice level riders like that gearing better. So something to consider if that's you. Suspension, sag at 105. And I actually, that's their standard for all their bikes. I went a little bit more. I kind of like a lower feeling bike. I did 106 mils of sag, opened my high speed compression a quarter of a turn, which again, that's gonna let the bike kind of squat down a little more. And I was happy. Never touched the low speed, never touched the rebound. I got the thing working really well. The fork comes at 10.5 bar, and I went up 0.2 bar, which equates to about 152 PSI. And for me, that just, it was a little too divey, and this is the issue I have with the air fork is it'll feel like a good balance, but a little harsh. So one click, these are very sensitive. You can definitely feel one click on these things. And I'll go one turn and all of a sudden I got a nice plush feel, but I'm diving too far into the stroke. I grab front brakes and I'm really stink bug. So then I got to come up on my pressure, open up another click of compression, and try to find the right compromise where my balance is still good, but I'm not really harsh feeling on the bumps. So where I ended up, like I said, 0.2 bar higher, so 10.5 bar. Standard in here is 10.3 bar, just to give you a reference. And then I ended up 2 clicks softer on my compression. And that gave me a really balanced feel. But again, I would play with your air pressure in here. A 0.1 bar, which is equivalent to about a pound, it's a big difference. It's a noticeable difference. And that's good and bad. Good in that you have a lot of adjustment, a lot of room to move around. The problem is when these do get really hot, they will increase pressure, so the thing will get a little firmer throughout the moto. Play with it. like I said, one click on this compression is another, it's a noticeable change. So do a click at a time, do a lap, and just, you know, reach down and tighten it up or soften it and feel where your sweet spot is. And that may change for a track that's deep, big downhills where you're loading the front a lot, and versus a flat, hard, slick track, you might want it a little softer. So figure out what's good for you. But I think that's a pretty good starting point for everybody. I'm 170 pounds, just to give you some reference, which I think is probably pretty close to the target on this, 150 to 175 probably. So anyway, that's what I did. Other than that, this is a great bike. All the parts and pieces on this, the grips are great, clutch, brake, everything works awesome. I didn't have any other complaints. I think if you've got this bike, you're gonna love it. Start with some of these. A couple other quick little tips coming from the KTM guys. Be sure to stay on your spokes for the first few rides. Keep tightening them up. And sprocket bolts. Those are the most common things that come loose, according to those guys, when they're out pressing the flesh with folks who buy these things. And then one more thing I will mention, the head tube can get really loose. It'll come snug when you buy it, and then after you ride it a couple times, this will get really loose where it just falls over really easily. This one's not there yet. We had that happen, and your front end will get kind of twitchy feeling. Just tighten it up. Be sure to loosen the top two triple clamps on each side, and tighten that down a little bit. Not so that it's stiff and hard to turn, but just put a little resistance on that, and it'll feel like a whole different set of forks. Just really stabilizes the front end. So a very small thing that'll make a big difference for you. Other than that, you're gonna love this bike. They are available at KTM dealers worldwide. Go check them out, and thank you for watching Dialed In.